considering moving to Littleton or somewhere in the Denver metro area? Well, today we're going to be talking about the 5 pros and 5 cons to living in Littleton, Colorado, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, my name is Landon Bellum. I'm the marketing manager and an associate broker for Mod Estate, which is a real estate brokerage that is located right out of Castle Rock, Colorado, and services the whole greater Denver and Colorado Springs areas. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Very good to have you here. We hope that we provide you with some valuable information today. If you've been to the channel before or are a subscriber, welcome back. It's great to have you and to see you again. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of living in Littleton, Colorado. I'm actually here in Littleton right now. I was born in Littleton and lived here specifically for the first 6 years of my life. And this was actually a trail that I walked on a lot, a park that my family spent a lot of time in. My grandma actually lived just a couple streets up the road, so we spent a lot of time after here, even after we moved from Littleton to Golden. So Littleton is not only an area that I know very well, but it is an area in Colorado that holds a very special place in my heart. So I'm very excited to bring you this video and this content today. It would help our channel a lot if you liked the video. Comment below which pro and which con you liked the best or you didn't like the most. As always, subscribe to the channel while hitting that bell notification icon so that you're always up to date with the new content and new valuable videos that we're releasing just for you. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this list of the 5 pros of living in Littleton, Colorado, and we'll get on to the 5 cons in just a few minutes. Okay, for our first pro of living in Littleton, Colorado, we are going to be talking about the great communities, great neighborhoods, and great homes to live in. I actually just recently made a video about the 11 best neighborhoods and communities in Littleton to live in. Here's a little snippet of that video. You can click this card right up here to be taken to that video if you're interested in learning about those. But if you want to watch it later, I'll post a link in the description as well that'll take you to that video. The city of Littleton is a Colorado classic. I mean, you really just won't find neighborhoods that are so nostalgic and so classic and so friendly as you will here in Littleton, Colorado. And what's also great about Littleton is you'll find any type, like I said, any type of home that you're looking for, anything from large, luxurious, in fact, some of the most luxurious homes and neighborhoods in Colorado are in Littleton, but you'll also find some incredible single-family residences. You'll find plenty of options for apartments, townhomes, and condos, just lots of different things, lots of different price points. For the most part, we'll talk about in the cons, the prices do tend to be a little bit higher than the Colorado and United States averages, but that's because this area is phenomenal. I mean, these neighborhoods have trees that are just huge, luscious. I mean, the vegetation here is very rich, very thick, which you don't find in a lot of these newer neighborhoods and suburbs in the Colorado greater Denver area. Like Castle Rock, for example, is where I've lived for the past 15 years. It's a much newer city. A lot of it's been developed in the last 20 years. So Castle Rock just doesn't have like these large, huge, luscious trees. The neighborhoods aren't quite as built out. So that's one big pro that you get in Littleton, Colorado. One big pro of living in these communities here is that the trails, the nature is just so large and luscious, and that's what I really love about it. Jumping into our second pro of living in Littleton, Colorado, we're going to talk about the great weather. I mean, it's literally the week of Christmas right now. This is like late December, and look how, I mean, there's a little bit of ice on the lake, but the temperature is just gorgeous right now. And this is why it's a big pro, is because the weather in Colorado, and especially in Littleton, is very moderate. You'll get 4 distinct seasons. So right now it's winter, it's gotten cold, it's snowed quite a bit, but it's also been very sunny and has had very nice weather. The summers are fantastic. You won't get days that are in the 90s very often, and days in the 100-degree weather is very, very rare as well. So very warm days, usually in the 80s, sometimes 70s, sometimes 90s. The springs and the falls are, first off, absolutely gorgeous, but the weather is phenomenal as well. So in terms of weather in Littleton, it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't really get much better, especially in other cities in Colorado and especially in other states in the United States. It is just phenomenal. It's very moderate, but you also get the 4 distinct seasons, which you miss out in a lot of places. For our third pro of living in Littleton, Colorado, we're going to talk about the various outdoor activities. Like I said, I'm here on this trail. I'm in Ashbaugh Park, I believe is what it's called. I grew up here. It's a fantastic area. Trails like this, ponds like this, reservoirs, lakes, hikes, things like that are just scattered and completely immersed throughout all of Littleton. So if you love going on your morning or evening hikes and walks, if you love just, being immersed in nature and trails and creeks, Littleton is going to be one of the best places in Colorado to live in or move to. That is just what this city is known for. It's known for the various outdoor activities and things that you can do out in the open outdoors and nature that you just won't get in a lot of other places. Now let's go ahead and jump into our fourth pro of living in Littleton, Colorado, and that is that Littleton has an awesome centralized location. So Littleton is very close to Denver. Depending on what part of Littleton you're in and what part of Denver you're going to, you can get to Denver in as little as 15 minutes. 15 to 30 minutes is what I would probably tell you. So that's not a bad commute if you work in Denver or if you have to visit Denver frequently. Littleton is very close by. And not only Denver, but a lot of the greater Denver area's most popular suburbs like Lakewood, Highlands Ranch, Lone Tree, Centennial are very close by. So if you have to commute a lot, if you have to get all over the Denver metro area pretty frequently, Littleton is a great spot that's located just in the middle of a lot of these awesome cities. Little side note, when I got here maybe about an hour ago to start filming videos, there were literally 4 geese. And over the past, 30 minutes, there's like 100 now. And they're making a lot of noise. So I apologize if you can hear them in the background. I will pause my video, as I have been doing, if they're making a good amount of noise, but you might hear some goose calls in the background, and I apologize for that, but they're joining us for the video, little cameos. That being said, let's go into our fifth and final pro of living in Littleton, Colorado, and that is that Littleton has incredibly friendly people. And I think that's partly due to the fact that it's an older community, it's a developed community, and lots of people have been living in Littleton for decades. So it's just, people here are just so friendly. Like I said, I've been here for like over an hour and people keep walking by, they're waving at me, smiling at me. They don't care that I'm in their community filming videos and stuff. Very nice individuals, families, people that live here. So if you're looking for an area or a community to live in that is a community and is full of friendly, nice people that you can get to know, make new friends, make new relationships, Littleton is a good place for you. Okay, that wraps up our 5 pros of living in Littleton, Colorado. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you thought about these pros. I'm sure there's plenty more that we didn't cover. So what other pros have you found about Littleton, Colorado that I might have missed? And let's go ahead and move into our 5 cons of living in Littleton, Colorado. No city's perfect. We know that. Littleton is not an exception. So let's jump into some of the things that might dissuade some people from living here. Okay, for our first con of living in Littleton, Colorado, you maybe could have guessed it if you're familiar with Littleton at all, but this city has a high cost of living, especially compared to the nation's cost of living averages. But even comparing the cost of living from Littleton to the general state of Colorado, the cost of living does tend to be higher. So if you're familiar with the cost of living index, basically what this is they gather a bunch of data and price points of a bunch of different things, anything from grocery to housing to transportation to healthcare, things like that. They gather it and they compare it to the rest of the United States, and the US average is always going to be at 100. Anything over 100 is going to be more expensive than the US average, and anything below 100 is actually going to be more affordable. So Littleton is going to rank over 100, so it's going to be more expensive than the United States cost of living in for most of the aspects of cost of living. I think it's 4. So it's going to be more expensive than most areas in the United States, and it's going to be more expensive than a lot of cities and a lot of areas in Colorado as well. The areas where Littleton does tend to be more expensive than the state and then the nation is things like housing, median home price, which we're going to talk about these in the next con, and transportation. Overall, it's more expensive, and grocery. Things like that, you're going to find that Littleton is more expensive to live in, and that's why it has a high cost of living. Jumping into our second con of living in Littleton, Colorado, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about the extremely expensive housing. So the median home price in Littleton, Colorado is $627, more or less. It tends to stay in that $600,000 area for its home prices. Comparing that to Colorado in general has a median home price of $488,000, which is significantly less than $627,000. This is what drops my jaw. The United States median home price is like it's like in the high 200,000s. I think it's like around $260,000 or $290,000 or something. That just shows that Littleton is a very expensive place to purchase a home. For first-time home buyers or for people moving out of state from a state that has much more affordable housing, it's going to be very hard to settle down in Littleton. So that is something to keep in mind. The housing prices have gotten exponentially more expensive over the last couple of decades here in Littleton. I remember my grandma's house, I don't remember how much they sold it for. It was probably somewhere in the 400s, maybe 500s when she died about over a decade ago. It just sold again for $800,000. And that's just an older home that was built, gosh, you probably can't see some of the homes that are around me, but that $800,000 for a home that was built, gosh, my mom lived there when she was like born. That was like the house she grew up in. So like 40 years ago. So houses here, even if they are older, just because Littleton is this, like I mentioned in the pros, just a classic community that has a great location, great communities, they're going to be very expensive. And that's going to probably dissuade a lot of people from trying to settle down here, because a lot of people don't want to spend $800,000 on a home that's 40 years old. They want to spend $800,000 on a new build in areas like Castle Rock or Highlands Ranch or Parker. Moving into our third con of living in Littleton, Colorado, as we mentioned in the pros, there are lots of trails and outdoor activities to love and enjoy in Littleton, but a lot of people would agree that these trails are getting pretty crowded. I've actually seen this on a couple different forums and a couple different places where people are complaining about certain trails that have gotten pretty crowded and pretty run down in the Littleton area. So that's something to keep in mind. Everyone loves having a great trail nearby their house, but it does get quite annoying when not only there's a lot of people on it, but the trail is getting misused and run down and it's not as pretty as it used to be. So that's gonna come in at number 3 on our cons list. Number 4 on our list of cons of living in Littleton, Colorado is that Littleton's traffic is increasing and getting to be worse. And from my point of view, I think it's just going to get worse before it gets better. You know, there's an issue when a city is located and surrounded by some of the major highways in a state. Like C-470, it's a major highway in Colorado. People use it no matter where they live. It's used very frequently to get around the state. So Littleton is completely surrounded on its southern side by C-470. So that causes a lot of congestion, a lot of road work. There was road work on C-470 for like, it seemed like 4 or 5 years. It was a long time, and it slowed things down dramatically. So this traffic problem that you're seeing in Littleton, it's gonna increase, I think, before it gets better. People are working on it. They're trying to find ways to make the traffic less of a problem, but I've run into it quite a few times in Littleton. It's been a problem for me. And if you live here, you're probably gonna run into it too, and it's probably gonna be a little bit annoying. No one likes having their commute increased. For our 5th and final con of living in Littleton, Colorado, we are gonna be talking about the incredibly dry climate. I mentioned in the pros that Littleton has great weather. It does. You get 4 awesome distinct seasons when living here. But I'm a native. I've lived in Colorado my whole life. I was born in Littleton. I grew up in Littleton. And gosh, I'm here right now, and I don't know if you'll be able to tell on my hands, but I'm drying up like crazy. My lips are super dry. My knuckles are like chapping up like crazy. Littleton is very dry. And that's something that you're just not going to be able to avoid, and it's something that you might never get used to. So be prepared to spend extra money on extra lotion, chapstick, things like that, because when the winter season hits especially, the dryness is intense. It's very intense, and you're going to need to drink a lot of extra water as well to make up for it. In fact, speaking of that, I need to get my water bottle from the car because it is super dry right now, and I'm really starting to feel it the more I talk about it. So, yikes. Okay, everybody, that wraps up our list of the 5 pros and the 5 cons of living in Littleton, Colorado. I hope that this video provided value to you. And I'd like to say that congratulations for making it this far in the video, because most people don't. You might not know it, but the watch time and how long people watch videos on YouTube is one of the biggest factors on how well a channel does on YouTube. So by watching this far in the video, you've helped us out a lot. Thank you for being here. Feel free to leave a like and leave a comment. Let us know what you thought about these 5 pros and cons and which ones we might have missed. Those 2 things also help us a ton with our channel and having it grow. And as always, like I mentioned at the beginning, subscribe and hit that bell to notify you when I release new videos. We've got lots of awesome content coming your way. Thanks for watching. Again, my name is Landon Bellum. It's been great to have you. We will see you on the next one.